Hello there, Star Wars fans. Welcome to Flying Casual, a podcast that does not break scoops or tell you how crappy of a Star Wars fan you are. Just a few friends sitting around the table talking about what we love about Star Wars and sharing those thoughts with you guys and you sharing your thoughts with us. So welcome one, welcome all. Holly, how you doing?
I feel like you jumped into that intro sounding like you had a scoop. We don't usually break scoops.
But here's a scoop.
Do you?
The scoop is 50 Cent rips off Star Wars melody for just a little bit. That's the scoop.
If you sing it for us, is that...
Da, 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 da.
Okay, yeah.
You're right. I can't... Holly can attest to this. Random songs every day just pop into my mind. And that happened to be one today. Everyone knows the song, right? Everybody here, right? Everyone listening? Yeah, we all know it. I probably won't sing the lyrics. But
probably not.
PG-13.
Also, we get in trouble for that.
Well, yeah,
I don't think we can afford that.
No, we can't. No. But, you know, yeah, so maybe that's the scoop. Maybe I'll post it on Twitter.
Flying Casual.
Let's see how far it goes.
We can't afford to be sued by 50 Cent.
I think 50's a Star Wars fan.
Probably.
He's
like really big into movies and TV. Like he's a producer, right? Or director?
Give him Star Wars. Luke, would you pay to see a 50 Cent produced Star Wars film? I mean,
I'm not gonna, reject any Star Wars. Probably, I give every Star Wars at least one pass.
That's right.
I mean, look, I think that he could do a really cool show, like throw in some cantina scenes.
That'd be awesome.
Jabba.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's a story of survival, which is, I mean, that's Star Wars. He could tell a hell of a story. And the dude's been shot like 7 times.
But 50 Cent does have some really good work out there as far as like TV shows and movies go.
I love 50 Cent. Sure. I'm not as familiar with him now. I know as a teenager boy, my 94 Grand Am was bumping some 50. And I don't think I understood half the stuff that he was talking about, but man, it had a sweet beat.
God, you know, I was thinking the other day.
Yeah.
I was 50. I was like, so many of these songs were on the radio completely inappropriate.
Absolutely.
Had a bunch of 4th graders singing Take Me to the Candy Shop.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. There's some, I don't know. There's a lot of songs out there that I'm shocked now that Holly is actually reciting the lyrics to me. I'm trying to, recite them and sing them, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And she's like, wow, Michael, that's not the lyric. Here's the actual lyric. I'm like, how is that on the radio? Like, how is half of this stuff that Papa Roach is singing on the radio?
Yeah.
That was popular when I was in like 7th grade. Luke probably remembers that one. Papa Roach, Luke, back in the day. Got born.
I know the Roach.
Right?
Yep.
I almost sang a song that wasn't theirs.
Yeah, I know.
That's okay. Tapped in deep there. But guys, we're not talking about 50 Cent. We're not talking about Papa Roach, though. I would love to see a 50 directed film.
Oh, I thought you were
going to say... Or write a Star Wars song. I'd be down for that, too.
I thought you were going to say a 50 Cent Papa Roach mashup.
I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that's where he was going to. Like the old...
Why not?
That would have been like a response to the Linkin Park Jay-Z collaboration. Oh, yeah, Jay-Z?
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Fitty, and I got Papa Roach.
Go. Yeah, I'd be down. Why not? Bring him back.
Whatever.
Bring him back. I'll have to investigate what 50's doing. I have no idea what he's doing nowadays, but we'll check it out.
Producing.
He's still hungry, which is great. Guys, but believe it or not, it has been over 8 years since our girl Ahsoka Tano was betrayed by the Jedi Council and forced to find her own destiny. I cannot believe that it's been 8 years since that season 5 epic story arc, which is going to get talked about here, guys. We are talking about the three of us, our favorite Clone Wars stories. It was actually that idea was prompted by a really great StarWars.com article. They do these opinion pieces that they call From a Certain Point of View, and that's what they were discussing a few weeks ago. What's the most memorable? What's the most impactful Star Wars, Clone Wars story to you? And they brought up a couple good ones that we're going to talk about, and hey, we might share in those. We may differ in those. We may go 3 hours talking about it. I have no idea what holds this conversation. But before that, guys, let's tap into the HoloNet. Been an interesting week and a half couple of weeks. Some interesting stories coming out there on the HoloNet. Luke, I want to run a few by you, see if they interest you at all. We've got Kathleen Kennedy is not fired from Lucasfilm. We've got Benedict Cumberbatch is not going to play Thrawn. And Disney theme parks has banned screaming from all Disney theme parks. Sorry. The producer has told me that last story is complete and utter bullshit. So,
False.
Luke, give me your thoughts on those first two. Any surprises there?
Is the third one false though? I remember. Do you guys remember the story when
Come on.
Japan got the pandemic under
Fake
control and sort of the
Fake
first wave?
news.
They reopened the theme parks and they said no screaming, right? No, that was fake too.
I don't know.
Okay.
That one may have been. I'm starting to think that Russia's behind it all. Okay, we already have the intel reports
Because screaming expels more particles.
Here's the thing: you're gonna get so much. It doesn't matter what you keep your mouth. It's going through your nose. I mean, you're
gonna get all the particles.
You're gonna get it all over your face. It's just
phrasing.
Phrasing. You're right. You're right. Roller coasters. It's dark place. You don't ride them. Holly.
I don't ride roller coasters.
Yeah.
I don't go anywhere near them.
Yeah.
Anything that gets me more than 3 feet off the ground, I am not going near.
Yeah.
At all, ever.
Big time.
Not in my
phrasing there
life.
from Holly.
Aren't you in a loft right
Yes.
now?
Okay, so actually,
We have to blindfold her to get her upstairs.
quick story. The loft makes me really nervous when I get close to like the wall. Michael and I talked about knocking out the wall and putting in like a banister where you can kind of like see through it. No freaking way.
Bad idea.
This is embarrassing. I don't need to share it, but I'm going to now because I'm invested in this.
Yeah.
My aunt in Maine, she had this log cabin that she lived in, and it had a spiral staircase. She like bought it off of somebody and installed it herself, and she had a big loft. But you
a do-it-yourself spiral.
Yeah,
That sounds unsafe.
No, she built the house herself.
That's awesome.
But she installed the spiral staircase, and my cousin, when she wasn't, or I guess this is like right before she graduated high school, but that was kind of like her room. And I don't know how they got a mattress up there. I don't know how they got anything up there because it was literally just a spiral staircase.
Yeah.
But Hannah was like, you need to come up and look at my room. So I went over, I went up, I got stuck halfway up the staircase because it was far enough away from the edge of the loft that she had to put a catwalk in between the staircase and the loft. And then she just tried to get cute and put these iron posts with like this like really thick like rope for like a sailboat along the sides of it. Oh, no way. I got halfway up that thing and I just like sat down and held onto the railing and I was like, I have to go.
It's a trip being around Holly in situations where you're elevating yourself. Star Wars Celebration for one in Chicago, going up an escalator.
Oh my God.
Holly froze. And luckily, I think we were on one escalator going up. Holly is freaking out. The escalator going up beside us.
Oh my God, it stopped.
Stopped abruptly, and all these people were thrust forward.
Oh my God.
And so her nerves were just elevated. It was
literally.
That was intense. You forgot about that, right?
I did forget. I like repressed that memory. I like tucked it somewhere away. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
if
that
you've
was
ever
scary.
been to what was that, the McCormick Center, if you've ever been there, it's a big convention center, and that escalator is probably like 3 stories tall.
Big time, yeah.
And they have a bunch next to each other. I forgot that thing stopped. It stopped working, and all these people got like thrown around on it. I don't know how nobody fell down backwards. That was really
Here's the
scary.
great thing about that too. I didn't realize what was happening with you. I don't know if I was in front of you. I didn't really realize what was happening. Because when it happened, it was early in the morning, so everyone's trying to rush in there and get like all the exclusive stuff. Well, Starbucks, so waiting in line for 3 hours for Starbucks, but trying to get all the exclusive like merch and stuff that sells out really early. So like people are right at these escalators, and that thing stops abruptly, and all those people kind of go flying. And I just remember looking back at them and saying, "Slam on you, nerds!" And I just took off for the exclusives. But Holly's just panicking there behind me. I had no idea what was going on until I turned around and saw you just huddled holding on to the rail for the ride. Like, please don't stop abruptly.
Oh my God.
That was great.
I just
Good
get
times.
like really uncomfortable. So I'm probably gonna have nightmares about heights because we brought this topic up.
Probably.
I did it to myself.
We had to actually stay away from escalators
Yeah,
that entire rest of the trip.
there was something about Cumberbatch.
Yeah, he is also
What was the question again?
afraid of heights. So we've got Benedict Cumberbatch coming out. Apparently, everyone is fan casting him to be a Thrawn, which I guess I see it. But Benedict Cumberbatch came out and said, "You're telling me this person's blue? No, I'm out. I got a family to raise. Like I'm not gonna sit in makeup for 5 hours and play a character like that." So I mean, any concerns about that, Luke? I mean, were you really hoping that he'd be our boy Thrawn?
I haven't spent 2 seconds
Perfect.
fan casting Thrawn in my head. So I can't say I have a strong reaction to that. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch is great.
Yeah.
He's Smaug,
Yes.
in The Hobbit. He's a dragon. Yep. He played Alan Turing in that great Codebreaker movie. And apparently he's in a bunch of Marvel movies, I guess. So he's got range, fantastic actor. I think he would do great at it if it's one of those like misdirection scenarios, like Thrawn, never heard of it, no way, and then 4 months later it's announced that he is. But no, I haven't spent much time. Do you guys have like a hopes and dreams casting type deal for Thrawn?
Not really. Haven't really put much thought into it because I don't know. I really don't do that, I guess. I'm just kind of like, I'm trusting the people that are casting folks, and I'm like, oh, that's a great performance, or that really missed the mark. Yeah. I really don't. Holly, do you put much thought into it?
The only time I put thought into like fan casting something in my mind is when I'm reading a book, because I get a very specific idea of what these characters look like, and I want them to look, if something is being put from like paper to screen, I want them to look in the movie or the TV show like I imagine them in my mind, which usually is based off of an actor or an actress that I already like.
Or the front cover of that romance novel with the guy with the six-pack, ripped abs, he's in a cowboy hat.
Yeah,
that kind of gives you an idea.
But I'm pretty sure he's a human body, or like a human torso on a horse's body. So I don't really know if that's functional.
Well, it could work.
But no, I haven't thought about who I would like to play Thrawn either. I think that Benedict would be a good option, but I mean, I don't know.
Well, what about Kathleen Kennedy? Seems like she's
going
to be around for. Well, maybe. How can you imagine? Can you imagine the backlash? Oh my God.
Oh geez.
That would be what a great April Fool's. I mean, it's coming up here.
How would you recast that? See, people would call for her to then be fired because they would be like, you're ruining Thrawn. But then they would be like, but wait, if she gets fired and she is Thrawn, we don't have Thrawn anymore.
We're screwed.
Oh man, what are they going to do?
Either you let it happen or you don't get Thrawn. So not really a surprise there, Luke. I mean, it seems like she's going to be handling the reins for a while longer, unless you're listening to Dr. Doom or whoever on YouTube. Apparently has a scoop that she's getting fired. There's a secret coup happening, and Donald Trump's leaving it. I don't know, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, did you guys hear the? This is kind of referencing the Disney investor call. And there were a couple of people who got in there in the hotline who are shareholders to ask questions and kind of ask this. When you're getting rid of Kathleen Kennedy, and the higher ups were like, Kathleen's not going anywhere, basically. And even if she was, why would you expect them to announce that in that scenario? But I think people aren't like, they're thinking about it too much from the story and fan point of view and not looking at it from the business point of view, which is what these CEOs, executives are thinking. Yeah. Star Wars in the Disney era has still been a money maker. I think they've easily made back what they had to pay George at this point. And even though there's been a hiccup at the box office, one single hiccup at the box office really in Solo, you then had The Mandalorian come along and be like the biggest streaming thing on earth, at least for a while, and really launch their entire new platform that is a huge future of the company. So Kathleen Kennedy has her hands in all of that, regardless of what you think of her creative decisions or selection of directors or storytellers. She has that track record, and not just that track record of the past 6 years or so. She is an historically effective, productive producer. of movies. If you look at her, her filmography on IMDb, all her credits, like going back to working with Spielberg for decades, like this woman has a lot more clout than sweaties who hate her think she does.
Doesn't count, Luke. Doesn't count because she ruined my childhood. So it doesn't. Holly, did she? I mean, yours too?
No.
Holly, come on.
Look, people also, this is something that really bothers me.
Come on.
People are like, they don't like her for different reasons, I guess.
Yeah.
But they think that their opinion is going to get this woman fired when she hasn't done anything wrong. Like, it's not like she's out there shooting off conspiracy theories or as far as we know, she's not a huge problematic person, and she's done so much good for Disney and Lucasfilm. Like, why would they ever get rid of her?
She's probably creating the storylines.
And right. Well, also all these people are like, boycott Disney Plus so they fire Kathleen Kennedy. Listen, you are overestimating how many people are only on Disney Plus for Star Wars.
Yes.
I think it's probably a small percentage of people who only watch Disney Plus for Star Wars who also hate Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars. Yeah. At that point, then just cancel your subscription. If you hate it so much that you're going to boycott it anyway, just don't watch it anymore because she's creating or making all these decisions. Just get over yourself.
Get Discovery Plus or something. Watch Mina and Karen and Good Bones, flip some houses in
if
Indianapolis.
If they don't like Kathleen Kennedy, they're not going to like Mina and Karen.
Amen. I couldn't have said it better myself. Actually, that's a great point. Get Kathleen Kennedy on Good Bones. I think that'd be fantastic. Maybe we can make that happen.
Renovate Kathleen Kennedy's $1 billion mansion in Southern California.
Can you imagine?
I don't know what kind of house she has.
I'm sure it's great.
I'm sure it is.
Definitely not more modest than ours. Those were supposed to be joke news topics, and I got a little something out of you guys, which was nice. Luke, what I really the real hate those commercials. What is the real people? I don't know. Explain it to me.
It's real.
It is real. But the real news, Luke, the serious news, is that the Battle for Endor and Caravan of Courage are going to be streaming on Disney Plus in the near future in April of 2021. That is the story we should be talking about. How I know you're excited even though you own physical copies. So it's like you can watch them whenever you want. But the world is going to get to share in what is, this absurd Star Wars story out there. I cannot wait for them to experience it with us. So, I mean, is that not the news of the week?
Yeah, to give some of the background on this one, I think I might have seen this before you two did.
Yes.
I saw an article pop up saying this, and I forwarded it to the both of you, and I was like, okay, I'm not sure if I really believe this because it just seemed too far-fetched that they would actually put these on there. I thought if it ever happened, it would happen later. A few years down the road, maybe, because these, I think they would fear of people thinking these are somehow new when they just pop up all of a sudden, and people thinking wow, this is crap. Why would they make this if they don't fully understand it's from 35 years ago and it was relatively low budget, made for TV movie sort of thing. That they might just fear it hurting the brand to put this out there. But yeah, I'm fascinated to know who decided or pushed for this or made it happen, because it certainly is unexpected. I think it's great for people to get to explore them if they never have before, because these are hard to find. I paid more than somebody should pay for these movies to get them at physical copies on DVD, because they're hard to find. There's not a ton of them out there. So it's great that people will have just easy access to them and they can throw them on. And I even thought, this is maybe something I can show younger kids even, because I've been hesitant to let my about to be 4-year-old really get too into Star Wars, because there is a decent amount of violence, and I think it's not something that's really appropriate for his age yet. So he's been fairly kind of standoffish with it, or I've kept him at arm's length from it. But I hadn't seen them for a little bit, and when I got my physical copies, I was like, maybe I can show in more of this. But there's the second Ewok movie, Battle for Endor, is definitely a decent amount of violence as well there. So not the most kiddie friendly little kid, but your slightly older kids will be down for it, and it's also good to just like have a laugh as an adult, and see like what this is all about. You can make a drinking game out of it. I think,
Well, not to mention, Teek is a little terrifying in the Battle for Endor. I'm sorry, like.
I love Teek.
He's great, but it brings back traumatic memories for me of the 80s and the 90s when I watched the television hit show Alf. Oh. Everyone remembers the little alien puppet guy, who had a bad attitude. We had a stuffed Alf in our house, and I think my sister like put it in her closet and stuff, and I for real thought that thing was roaming throughout the house all the time. It was pretty much the equivalent of Chucky to me. So when I see Teek, just flashbacks of sure terror in my childhood. So, every time I watch it, I go, hey, it's cool. It's make believe. So I understand, maybe a little hesitant, not those marauders coming through and just, slaying Ewoks, but Teek was a little scary as well. And also, guys, this may not be the Caravan of Courage and Battle for Endor that we all have seen and enjoyed. Sometimes Mike has to go to the depths of the internet, put his ear to the ground and listen, for rumors and leaks and scoops.
Are they editing it before they're putting it?
I'm hearing, Holly, that there is a John Cordy 4-hour cut of Caravan of Courage. Hashtag Cordy cut. Hashtag bring back the Cordy cut.
Blame Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah. Because she's probably been closeting this thing for 30 some years.
But you know what?
Yeah.
She is now truly going to be ruining Star Wars by having them release this on Disney Plus.
Can you imagine a whole nother 2.5 hours of Ewoks?
Actually, yeah.
I mean, little murder bears.
You know what I think? Yeah. I think that how sometimes you can go on YouTube and you can do the live videos for the animal cameras the national parks and stuff has.
Yeah.
I think that someone somewhere probably has one for the live Ewoks.
That'd be great.
Just it's on all the time and you can just tune into Endor and watch little Ewoks.
Hey, I would, I'd watch that. I'll sit there for 2 hours and watch live bald eagle nest video cams.
Yeah.
I've done it, guys. They're nesting right now. It's fantastic. But so, hey, I'm going to start it. You'll see it on tomorrow morning, Monday morning on Twitter. Hashtag release the Cordy cut.
Are you saying that?
I'm demanding
or is that for real?
The 4-hour cut of Caravan of Courage. Give me more low gray. Okay? I'm sorry. I need more time with the council.
Michael, if you've seen Caravan of Courage, which you have, I think they might have used all the footage they had. There are long extended scenes. I don't want to spoil too much, where there's a lot of just music and countryside, and and
here's
that's about
how
it.
many.
So I think they really stretched the footage they had in certain.
I think you're right, and honestly, how many more magical, practical items can there be in the world? We got magical rocks, magical sticks.
Wait, can I ask why are people so upset about the rock?
Holly, wait, you're talking about the High Republic. We're not getting into the Geo discussion yet, but there are magical rocks.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Dwayne
Johnson. No one's getting upset about him.
What did Dwayne do?
Everyone's pissed at the Rock.
Dwayne can't do anything wrong. He's literally a perfect person.
Seems like a pretty nice guy.
I think
maybe he'll run for president.
But I will say I had the damn pandemic interrupted this tradition I was starting to get going with a couple friends and my brother. Where each Christmas, my brother who lives in Chicago, so he's not around all the time, but usually around for the holidays. And we started watching sort of a bottom of the barrel Star Wars-y type thing each Christmas for a couple of years. So we started with the holiday special, which none of us had ever seen. Yeah. So let's get together, let's watch that. And then the next Christmas, I was like, okay, let's watch Caravan of Courage. And we did that, got it in. And then this past Christmas would have been Battle for Endor time was on the schedule. But then, the pandemic kind of interrupted plans. My brother didn't come back in town for Christmas and things like that. And it would have been a great kind of be getting together with people sort of outside your bubble. So it got interrupted, but I've tried to add to the list of things you can add on to that list because I'm getting towards the end of it, and hopefully, this Christmas we'll get to Battle for Endor. But there's now the most of the Muppets show is available on Disney Plus now, and there's a Star Wars episode of the Muppets with 3PO, Mark Hamill, and Chewbacca all on it. So Anthony Daniels and Peter Mayhew as well. So that's on the list. So that'll be hopefully the summer or the Christmas after this one. We'll watch that. So I think it's just great to be able to like experience all the corners of Star Wars that have ever sort of been put out into the world and just have fun with them in their own way.
The good and the bad. Let's get it on the table. People want transparency. Just give the people what they want.
Give the people what
they want. And here's the great thing. If it's on Disney Plus, you can then have shared streaming parties.
You can have a watch party.
A watch party. I mean, so Luke, the tradition can continue even in pandemic. And I mean, let's go. I'm here for it. I can't wait to watch this with people who have never, like yourself, Holly,
literally
never seen. I cannot wait. We have, we still owe our patrons a commentary, Holly, on the holiday special, and then we're moving on to the Ewok movies, and I can't wait. We are unfortunately only getting apparently the animated Boba Fett story part of the holiday special. That apparently they feel comfortable enough releasing on Disney Plus, so that'll be also in there, as well as they mentioned other kind of legacy stories. So it'll be interesting to see what else is
the original Clone Wars.
Oh, the original, exactly, the 2 seasons of the original Clone Wars from the mid 2000s. So that's exciting stuff, and I think a lot of that is because of consumer demand. Like people really thinking, like, hey, we'd love access to that, and they know people know how exclusive it is, and let's share it with the people, good and the bad.
Might be an unpopular opinion.
Shut it down. You're saying no.
No, part of me kind of feels like they're releasing like so much stuff all at once. I can't snap. That's probably
that you should work on that. Yeah. That was silence. Terrible for podcasting.
It's like snap, silence, snap.
Guys, check out my snap. It's really strong.
Wow, that sounds loud.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I just feel like they're releasing things so quickly. Yeah. It's really hard to keep up with everything.
Yeah.
And I just feel like by the time I actually have time to get to one thing, they've already released 3 more things. And I just kind of wish that they would slow it down a little bit and space it out, because we're getting all this Star Wars content now. And then we'll only get like one thing next year. And it's like, just like slow down.
Well, it's great that you bring that up, because when Disney purchased the Star Wars franchise, they had all these plans to release movies every year. At one point, they were talking about movies every twice a year, and people were like excited, and then they started releasing movies that were like, slow down, like take your time with them. And so they said, okay, we're not doing anything for a while, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the streaming platforms take, okay, let's hit it while it's hot. And I get it, but you're right, it can seem like a little much.
I just feel like we want to talk about all of it. I haven't even read any of the High Republic stuff.
Well,
there's
fault.
2 or 3 novels out now. There's comics there's a whole comic line that's getting released.
That's why I had to stop reading the main line, the Star Wars main line, because I was so behind. I'm like, let's catch up as they get released on Marvel Unlimited, and we'll go from there. So you're right. Like, we've got so much to catch up on. We don't have some staff of 10 people that are here on the podcast to share stories with and what we've learned about these products. So we take our time. Luke is blown through everything. He's actually waiting for the new releases at this point. So he is a freak of nature. But Holly,
we need to get Chewy on some of this
seriously
stuff. Let him,
he doesn't really pay rent or
time reading up on
maybe
it.
he can read the stories too.
Well, he just turned his back to us, so
he hates us. He doesn't even want to be here. So guys, that's some of the highlights on the HoloNet the past couple weeks, past week and a half or so. But I mentioned, guys, at the beginning that we're going to talk about a fun subject, something that I think everyone can share, what they think on this, because if you're listening to this podcast, you've likely seen all 7 seasons of the hit television series, The Clone Wars. And I mentioned that I couldn't believe it I was reading I frequent StarWars.com. I'm kind of stupid and nerdy like that.
You frequent StarWars.com.
That doesn't make any sense, right?
For what reason?
Just secret stuff.
Definitely not Star Wars.
Definitely not Star Wars. I found an interesting read, like I mentioned, from StarWars.com, an opinion piece. They were talking about the Clone Wars and kind of like what's your favorite arc or, what kind of big storyline from the Clone Wars. And they had two writers for StarWars.com kind of give their opinions on this as part of their From a Certain Point of View line that they do. And I thought it was fascinating. We don't often talk about the Clone Wars on this podcast. We talk about little, certain, events or characters or things that have happened, like Maul and some of his development at Ahsoka, but we never really pick out like a 3 or 4 episode arc and say, man, that to me defined the Clone Wars. So I think it'd be fun to do. And in this article, the authors picked 2, one being the Baran arc. If you remember, our clone trooper friends, Rex and the 501st, are on Umbaro. I think I'm pronouncing Umbara. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Are on this planet? It's kind of dark and it's a weird kind of planet. And they are. Do you remember who the Jedi's name is?
Krell.
Krell.
Pong Krell.
Boy, it turns out he's kind of a dick.
Yep. Kind of.
One of the worst of the Jedi. They picked that story, and that was Holly. That was one that affected you when we watched it. You were a little pissed off, and rightfully so. It was a memorable story arc, and it just seemed to go on forever. But that was just my opinion. But then they also bring up Ahsoka. Spoiler alert: leaving the Jedi establishment. Being falsely accused of igniting a bomb in the temple.
Sedition.
Sedition against the, I want to say the Empire. It was damn close at that point. The Republic. So they picked these 2 stories and said, really, this is what was the most impactful story of Clone Wars. And I tend to agree. Those are really big stories. And then my mind just started racing. Like, what else? Like, it's just so many years of Clone Wars and Star Wars stories. And the one specifically with Ahsoka and leaving the Jedi, I could not believe, looking at the air date, that was from February of 2013. Like, what the hell was I doing in 2013? That was over 8 years ago. It was bananas to me that we keep going back to these stories and enjoying them so much, and they've been around. It doesn't seem like for that long, but they have. So many young kids who grew up with it are growing into their probably teenage years or adulthood, and it's interesting to see that this really defined their Star Wars story. So I want to spit that question to us here. Luke, we'll start with you. I mean, I don't know if you shared the opinion of these 2 authors in that article. Or if there's something else specifically that really sticks out. But when you think of Clone Wars, what was the most impactful story or arc, so to speak?
Yeah, I think the 2 that were chosen were excellent ones to sort of illustrate the point about the most memorable arcs. For me, for the longest time, that end of season 5 arc with Ahsoka and her what she viewed, and probably rightfully so, as sort of a betrayal by the Order and her ultimate decision to, even though they wanted to reconcile with her, to go on a different path and sort of find her own way. Just really beautifully done, especially like the very last episode of the arc really makes the whole thing just so powerful. Yeah. The score for that episode is fantastic. Yeah. The visuals of what you think might be the last or one of the last discussions he has with Anakin ever. All very powerful stuff. And the fact that it was sort of the end of the Clone Wars, because it was at that point that the show got canceled as a TV property. Yeah. That to me felt like the most impactful, most memorable arc for the longest time. And then that kind of changes when you get the bonus sixth season that gets released on Netflix and on DVD and things like that. And then for it to then come back again and say, no, we're going to do this, finish this thing right. There's going to be a season 7 on Disney Plus and everything. And then some great arcs there. So it kind of like changes what probably would have stood as the most memorable, most powerful arc, just because it was kind of the end in a way, and it was so well done. And then now you can kind of like look at different things, and it isn't maybe the pinnacle it might have sat on long term if all this other stuff hadn't happened. But a great arc nonetheless. And I think when you think of the term memorable, it can go both ways. It can go memorable, like that was so great, or memorable as that was kind of cringy, or that was that missed the mark, but in this way that you'll never forget it. So I'll probably have. I want to talk about both sort of directions of that, but I'll start with the more the good side of that, like that wow, that was so well done, memorable. And outside of these two arcs, sort of everything Obi-Wan Satine to me has to be up there. That relationship, Obi-Wan is one of my favorite characters, as we've discussed, and just to continue to get so much more like personal with Obi-Wan and his background and the way he's processed his emotions and his place in the galaxy through his relationship with Satine, that you find out like, oh, he doesn't, you might think at first he doesn't understand Padme and Anakin and Anakin's attachment and his going against the order in terms of romance and things like that. But then all of a sudden they plop this story down where it's like, no, Obi-Wan has a romantic past with a wonderful character who you learn, spoiler alert, in her ultimate demise, it's revealed that he cared about her so much, he may have been willing to renounce the Jedi Order to be with her. And that, like I said, just in the context of Anakin and Anakin's fall, and seeing how that makes it so Obi-Wan probably understands more of what happened than you thought. I think it's a beautiful addition to his background and into the story overall.
God, you're so right. It's just over the years, Obi-Wan has, he's just become so complex, and he's been through so much, even in just the films. And then you learn, like you said, Luke, the love of his life just like struck down before his eyes. Like, just, he's witnessed this time and time again, and you wonder how he just ever had the will to continue on, to really just had to have a belief in the Force, and just kind of, I don't know, for someone who was, picked up for the Jedi at such a young age and who's experienced so much. I mean, he's dealt with it pretty damn well, and we're learning through even like small stories, especially from a certain point of view, Holly, especially the one we just read recently, maybe a little humor gets him through some of these times in isolation and loneliness and sadness. A very funny guy, He didn't just make that one bad joke there on Naboo, there in the transport with Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan's bad joke. Look it up on YouTube. Oh my God. It's really funny, but he's actually a funny guy. So you're right, Luke. Man, that was such a great story, and I think for me, so much of the Mandalore just kind of storyline, I think I don't have such a fascination with Mandalore so much, and I've kind of gone into detail about the Mandalorians, and like that's not really why I come to Star Wars. But like when you bring in that element of Obi-Wan, and then you bring Maul into it, and he's leading Mandalore, it's just that much more interesting. And it really, really got me interested in the Mandalorians and what they've gone through and their history. But because I didn't really care before then. So I think it did so much for me as learning more about Obi-Wan, but really expanding on my interest in that realm of Star Wars that I usually really don't care too much about. And that's kind of blossomed, obviously, with the Mandalorian and stuff like that. So that's a good one. What's the one that maybe you're like, oh boy, that we could have done without that one?
Well, it's funny because one of the ones that springs to mind the most is one I've had a change of heart on over time, and I'm 99% sure I've watched the series 3 times through all the way. Most recently in 2020, sort of after season 7 ended, I had this longing to go back through it again. And so I did sort of right after season 7 ended. And it's the arc where the main characters are basically all 4 astromech droids, including R2-D2, and they're on a special mission with a little frog alien guy named Bieber Gascon, I believe is his name. And when you sent me a message saying you want to talk about this, I almost started going back and trying to look at a list of the arcs. And I was like, wait, no, I shouldn't do that, because if it truly was memorable, I'd just be able to pull it out off the top of my head. So I didn't do that. I didn't go and look at a list. I just wanted to, think, just let it come to me. And this is one that I always think of when I think of Clone Wars. I think of this arc. It's weird. It's a weird arc. They spend a lot of time on this planet that's basically like this big void, and you don't know if certain things are real or if they're hallucinating or imagining certain things. It's kind of trippy, and some of the humor, your first pass through it, just seems maybe a little corny, or it's silly droid humor. And in addition to the 4 astromechs, and then this little alien guy who actually is small enough that he can fit in the head of one of the aliens, fit in the head of one of the droids, and that's how he rides around with them. There's also like a pit style droid, like the ones you see in Phantom Menace that kind of screw up the pit stop at the pod race. And you see them in Mandalorian now too. But by the time you watch the series 3 times and you're watching these episodes for the 3rd time, I really grew to like them. The humor between so the only characters who speak English for most of the series is the little alien frog guy Gascon, and then the pit style droid, because all the astromechs just beep and boop, and those two have this antagonistic, funny relationship to me, where the pit droid is really eager and wants to do best and be a hero, and he's just kind of pissing off the little alien guy and getting on his nerves. And there's a great character, Gregor, originates in this storyline, who then goes on to appear in Rebels. He's one of the clones who's still around and hanging out with Rex. When they reunite with Rex and Rebels. So that's, I think, a cool tie-in for the larger canon. And it's just a set of episodes that takes a while to grow on you. You have to watch them 3 or 4 times before you really sort of appreciate them. But when you're watching maybe for the first time and you're really excited to get through the whole series and binge it, it's like, wow, I just spent 4 episodes on this, because it's a 4 episode arc. It's not one of those small little 2 episode arcs or one of those more standard kind of 3 episode arcs. You're with this for a while, so you really have to appreciate it for what it is, or else you're really going to be miserable for 4 episodes.
And this little guy, wasn't he like a high-ranking officer in the Republic? And
he's like a colonel or something.
And he had he had this like deep, like crazy voice. He was very commanding, but he's this tiny little guy, going on a secret mission. It was, I had actually forgot about that until you brought that up. That was. Yeah, maybe not so much memorable for me, but now you bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, that, I found humor in it. But it tends to be those droid tales that tend to be the ones that people forget, because, I mean, it just happens. We find it in Rebels too. Sometimes it's just the droids going out. What's the protocol droid's name that we love so much?
Chopper.
Well,
the one who gets shot out into space.
Oh,
what's his name?
Everyone, I will.
A5.
I will never forget when that aired.
Yeah.
Everyone was so pissed off with some damn musical singing out there in space. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, that was a good moment.
And it was very comical. But that was Rebels aside. I actually tend to.
Yeah, I love how he wants to just float in the void.
I know.
He's actually pissed off when they pick him back up.
He's so mad when they bring him back.
It's so good. And I tend to like blend Rebels so much with. Holly and I were bringing up, some topics before we started, and I mentioned something. She's like, Michael, that was Rebels. And that's like, that for me, they just blend so well together with the stories that tie in. Just to me, it's one continuous story.
I mean, really it is.
It really is. It really is. Just, from a different perspective. And we tie it in with older stories and Maul and the clones and our kind of legacy heroes. So that's a good one, Luke. Holly, you've seen a majority of the Clone Wars now. You actually recently saw the big Ahsoka storyline, and I remember you saying that's how people were left at the end of that episode, because that was the end of the season 5.
When the season ended,
you were just like that. They had to be left like that, and the show was done.
Yeah, I agree with what Luke said earlier, where that final scene with Anakin and Ahsoka, where she's facing the camera but facing away from him, and he's standing behind her but facing away from her, like back to her, but he has his head turned because he's talking to her, and they won't even look at each other. Yeah. And then they like don't even look back. They just walk away. Yeah. Well, he looks back kind of, but I don't know. That was very emotional, but I feel like I don't know. It's hard for me because I watched everything out of any sort of order that makes sense. Yeah. I watched all of Rebels, and then I watched season 7 of the Clone Wars, and then I went back through and started Clone Wars from the beginning. Yeah. So I kind of feel like everything's like a jumbled mess up here.
That's fair.
But yeah, I feel like it would be unfair for me to say that arc was the most memorable for me because it's the one that I watched the most recently. Yeah. So of course it's going to kind of stick out for me. But I don't know. I don't really think there are a lot that I had reactions to. The Umbra one, I had a huge reaction to because
you were upset.
I was upset. I just found it so appalling that this general could be leading the clones and is actively pitting them against each other so they kill each other. Yeah. And the Jedi didn't really care. Yeah. I feel like that's something that you would know if he's commanding clones in a war and most of the clones under his command are dying more than anywhere else in the Clone Wars. That's a red flag for everybody else to take a step back and be like, he's not a good leader. Yeah. We're having more casualties than anybody else. This is not an efficient way to run an operation, especially during war, and they just like didn't care. Yeah. It's the clones who had to step in and take care of it because nobody else would help them. Yeah. And I feel like that was a really big thing for the clones to have to do. Mm-hmm. They shouldn't have had to do that. These people should be taking care of them because they created them. Yeah. But they didn't care about them. Yeah. And I feel like with the Clone Wars, it's literally named the Clone Wars, but I think that the arcs that include the clones are a lot of the arcs that people like the least. Yeah. And I think it's because they just want lightsabers, they want Jedi, they want the characters that they already know, but it's called the Clone Wars, and the focus really, to me, should be on the clones and what they went through, because that's the whole reason why we're even going to have this war, is because they were able to build an army of clones to be able to fight back. And I don't know. Anyway, that whole arc had me so mad.
It did. And this is why I love going back and rewatching these with you, because to me, like, I remember that Jedi Master being a real dick. I remember that. And I'm sure the story resonated with me a little more at the time. I mean, it was a long time ago now. God, I was a different person then. It was 8 years ago. Well, that was longer. That was season 4. I mean, that was, God knows, 9 years ago. Decade ago, whatever. It wasn't so memorable to me, but when you and I rewatched it, and your reaction to it was awesome, because you were pissed off. And there's moments, in Clone Wars where, it's very obvious that it seems like one of the points of this story was to humanize these clones and allow them to really develop as like sentient, and to show them as humans
and have an identity.
Exactly, have an identity. That's why they have all the cool haircuts and the sweet names and the tats and stuff. But it really didn't stick out to me until we watched it. And it's just like, yeah, you're right. Like, they're being thrown into this, war that they had no part of. They had no choice in it. And then those that are supposed to look out for them the most are the ones that tend to make very brash decisions because they just look at them as expendable. Even, Obi-Wan in the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, in the Battle of Coruscant, Anakin wants to go help one of the clones that's getting hit by droids. Yeah. And he says, he's doing his job. Let him go. He's like, no, I'm going to save him. Maybe it was to Anakin's detriment. I don't know. And the mission, I guess they had a big mission to get the Chancellor, but like even then, even Obi-Wan, maybe not expendable, but like the mission takes precedent, and I know that's a huge thing.
But when it comes, I don't know, it's a whole other conversation that we can have comparing how war and different hierarchies in the military are portrayed in the Clone Wars versus like how that actually works in real life.
Yeah.
That's a whole other analysis or conversation to have. But it's just like when it comes down to the Jedi and the clones and who's saving whose ass, it's always the clones coming in and saving the Jedi and then the Jedi only looking out for themselves.
Exactly.
And it just, that arc, I mean, obviously we know what happens in Order 66 and we kind of, but still, I just feel like it just gave me one more reason to be like, I freaking cannot stand the way the Jedi Order operates, and you can really sympathize with Ahsoka later for her leaving. And like it all, like really the series just sets you up to see the huge fatal flaws in the Jedi Order.
Yeah. Well, and until that point, I'm sure we've had seen, I mean, it's been a while since we watched it, but I'm sure there were Jedi that weren't so great, right? But we'd never really seen one that like actively as a Jedi master was a huge dick. Like we just never really had seen.
But he wasn't even just a huge dick. He was legitimately
like
a murderer.
He despised them.
Like
exactly.
He was doing this intentionally to kill them, even though he was in an active war zone.
Yeah.
And he was being attacked, and the enemy forces were advancing on his people. He decided that it was probably more important for him to take the time out of his day to develop a tricky plan to plot his clones against each other so they kill each other instead of worrying about what's actually happening.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It was like important for us to show that there's there's that the Jedi Order isn't all, great. That there's people that maybe at one point, he was identified and he kind of rose up in the ranks and things change. Obviously, there have been Jedi who have left. There have been Jedi who went dark. But seeing that and seeing these clones being like, wait, like they couldn't even process it. Like, there's no way. He's a Jedi. Like, look at Anakin. Look at us. We're all so close. Like they've done nothing but good for us. But then there's people out there that are going to take advantage of you. That aren't gonna, he doesn't even look at them as like sentience, really.
Well, that one clone, I forget his name, which is really terrible because I'm sitting here preaching about how we have to care about the clones and I can't remember his name, but but don't hate me.
Probably Fives or
well,
Rex.
No, it wasn't, because he was the one who arrested those guys for treason or whatever and tried to have them executed.
Dogma.
Yeah.
I think they called
Yes. Yes. And it was just like this. He was gonna kill him in the end too, but he was like, "Well, first let me use you as much as I can." It just like, I don't know, it puts a bad taste in your mouth. And I know it's a fictional show, but there are people out there like that, so it kind of has a sense of realism outside of the whole like I'm on a fantasy planet, blah blah blah. It just really bothered me. Because they knew that this was happening. This was a pattern. And the clones, it's another example of them having to come in and save themselves because the two Jedi who actually give a shit about them aren't there. Anakin and Ahsoka.
Yeah, that's totally fair. So a memorable story, right?
That's how I feel about that arc.
I want to have a whole history nerd podcast that compares Jedi Master Krell accusations of being a butcher with his troops to Union General Ulysses Grant in Civil War, also accused of being a butcher. But let's table that for another discussion.
Can you imagine a little side by side? Like let's take a look. Yeah.
You need one of those. What are those Venn diagrams? Are those the circles?
Yeah. What do they share?
Yeah.
An affinity for the color blue? I have no idea. Maybe.
No.
I like
what
that
color?
though.
Yeah. Okay.
I have no idea.
Look, I'm like.
What's your favorite color, Buddy the Elf? Nah, I don't know if that's a quote from the movie.
You just made up your own quote to Elf.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I mean Elf, not Alf.
Never again. I'll never watch Alf again.
But you talk about it a lot
Terrifying.
on the podcast.
How did I recently came across Alf.
You put it on.
I showed it to you. It's on. Yeah. No, because it's on the Roku channel. I was looking for bad television. I was like, Alf is on Roku? Anyway. That's what happened.
He kind of reminds me of Stitch from Lilo and Stitch because he's
like a drunken one. He just seems like, yeah.
Everybody's least favorite uncle, but from another planet,
exactly.
I guess.
With no clothes. That's exactly
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So a memorable story that frustrated you, but a memorable. Are there any kind of feel-good moments yet? A lot of darkness in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, as far as arcs go, probably I can't think of any feel-good moments.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a show about war, so those aren't really the ones
you're
that...
absolutely right.
I don't know. That makes me sound really terrible. I'm like, I can think of episodes and moments in episodes that made me feel good, but overall, like, if you ask me to pick out an arc where, like, only good things happened or that made me feel good as a whole, probably not.
That's fair. That's totally
I
fair.
haven't seen the droid one that Luke was talking about.
You'll love it. It was a good time. Yeah, I also have moments that pop up, and I'm like, God, was it Rebels? Was it, really awesome epic moments with Ahsoka? It's like, God, that was Rebels. But,
We'll play another game.
Ooh.
This is what we're going to do on the next podcast.
Okay.
I'm going to pick out a bunch of quotes, and some are going to be from Rebels, and some are going to be from the Clone Wars. And you guys have to answer, is it Rebels or is it Clone Wars?
I also had a similar game.
Do you get to hear who the character
is?
Or I guess some of them might give it away. But I mean, some that could be like Ahsoka said, and she's in
That's
both.
true.
Or Rex said, and he's in both. So you could play around.
Those
with
would
it
be
a little
tricky
bit.
ones.
That'd be a fun game.
Okay, I'll write up some.
Down. We'll expect that in a future podcast. I don't know. Maybe it is because we recently watched that Ahsoka one, but I'm sure it is something that is shared amongst all Star Wars fans because the Clone Wars was Ahsoka's story. It really, really was. As much as it's explaining Obi-Wan and Anakin and these tales that they went on and cool. And there's an Mace Windu action. That's fine. It really is Ahsoka's kind of coming of age. Like that's what it is to me. And it also is a clone, kind of growth and, like you said, Holly, forming an identity and realizing there's more worth to them than just, we're soldiers, but, like, we're also family. And it just was, I don't know. Those, to me, that is Clone Wars. And so that season finale of Episode 5, you mentioned the ending right there with, Ahsoka turned away from Anakin. For me, it's the moment right before then. Ashley Eckstein and the guy who does Anakin's voice, I cannot remember at this point.
Freddie Prinze Jr.
Not
that Lancer.
Oh. Yes, but
shoot!
You're thinking
See, now I'm thinking of Rebels and
bring Freddie back.
Louise.
He could probably do an awesome Anakin.
You'll have to edit that out because people are gonna be like, "This girl didn't even see the show."
Don't edit podcasts unless really ridiculous things are said. The moment where I don't know if they're in a little room or an elevator or something, like they were going at it, and I was just like, boy, they were really bringing it in that moment. It was just, you could see the way Ahsoka was responding, even calling him Anakin. She's grown up. She's becoming her own person. She even says, like, I've got to figure this out on my own. I've got to go on my own path. And yeah, you believed in me, but it wasn't enough. Like, now I call you Anakin. You're no longer my master. I thought that it was just, man, what a great performance by those guys. It was just such an awesome moment. And so, like when Holly said, "This is how they left people," it's like, yeah, what the hell, guys? That's not cool. It's like we all had to share in that agony for a while. And that's why everyone was so excited to see, season 6, which is a little trippy for me. I need to go back and rewatch season 6 because it's one that I don't think I watched it consistently. It was like when I could get to it, and it was some trippy stuff.
We'll watch it.
We'll watch it.
That has a memorable arc in it too. The Fives arc in that season 6.
You're right.
He kind of discovers the secrets of the chips
Poor Fives.
in Order 66. It's a good one.
Could have stopped it all. No one would listen. That's another thing. Like some of the clones didn't believe him. Like what?
Because they're brainwashed.
It's yeah. So you're right. There's some not so kind of crazy stuff, but Yoda and kind of going off. And he goes to Dagobah. He goes to Sith homeworld. I don't remember where it was, but some weird stuff. But I need to go back and watch that. But season 5 to me, man, it's juicy. There's some good stuff in there. What a great season. But Ahsoka is just and to me it's so crazy because, like Luke said, kind of mentioned a memorable, but maybe not in such a great light. Like, when you originally experienced it, for me, was that opening night of the Clone Wars movie in 2008, and I walked out of the theater going, "What the hell did I just watch?" I don't think I had an idea that they were making a cartoon series after that. I was like, okay, like we're just thrust into this battle scene, and it's we rescue a little baby Jabba, and then cool. What the hell did I just watch? Is this the future of Star Wars? And who is this annoying little, bratty teenager? Like Snips. Like what the hell is this? And it had nothing to do with her being a female character. Sometimes kids are annoying, and when they talk and say annoying things, they're just annoying for that fact. So that to me was very memorable, and even starting the beginning of the Clone Wars was rough for me. It really picked up in later episodes, and had they actually released these things chronologically, it would have made a lot more sense, and we wouldn't have jumped to season 3 and then come back, and it's just some weird stuff. But I remember just kind of being like, "What the hell is this?" From going to that to being like, "Oh my god!" Like Ahsoka is just a profound Star Wars character, and it's just her. It's a coming of age for her, and she had to do so much of it alone. It's just a completely different story than any ones we've really seen. And that end, when she's talking about leaving the Order or whatever, and having thoughts of leaving the Order, and Anakin says, "I understand how you feel," and she just says, "I know," and that's the last freaking thing she says. It's like, oh my god, like these two really needed each other. Like I would get people would ask me questions. What if Ahsoka stayed around? Do you think Anakin would have turned? Now I'm like, maybe not, because they really needed each other to say it's okay to have these feelings. We're always going to be there for each other. We're always going to be looking out for each other. It just wasn't enough in that moment. It wasn't enough. The distrust that she then had for the council wasn't enough that her best friend and her father figure was, trying to be there for her. It just wasn't enough. So it's like, would things have been different? I don't know. But she knew they were so in sync with each other. She knew exactly how Anakin felt, and he knew how she felt. It was just kind of this unspoken thing. I think it was even deeper than Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan kind of knows what's going on too. He's just kind of more so annoyed about it. But Ahsoka and Anakin understand each other. And now after season 7, people are like, "What if she would have stayed? Like, what if he would have turned?" I'm like, maybe not, because they balanced each other. They really needed each other there. I don't know. Season 5, that finale is something else. So yeah, when Ahsoka came back, it was something special. And there's more Ahsoka stories to be told, and that's a very exciting time. And that's my Clone Wars story, being extremely disappointed and not understanding what the hell is going on, to being blown away at the story they were able to tell and win over people that were so hesitant. And I was just I didn't understand what the hell we were doing here. I get it's for kids, but like, doesn't make any sense. Yeah, little baby Jabba's cute, but
was he that cute?
Little slug guy, I don't know. He was okay. He made some cute noises.
Oh.
But they won me over with that, and it ended up being one of the best Star Wars stories out there. So for me, I mean, I thought these writers were spot on. One that I didn't really appreciate as much, but then kind of seeing it through Holly's eyes and hearing her response to it, like, yeah, that was a huge moment for the clones. And then I thought they nailed it right on the head with Ahsoka. I think it was one of the best stories. But yeah, I mean, season 7 too is pretty epic. But yeah, any other memorable Clone Wars moments that I'm sure there's more that we're forgetting. Luke, anything?
Well, I think along the lines of maybe not enjoying it as much in your first pass, or depending on what your baggage is going into it, there's some fun Jar Jar stuff in there. There is some Jar Jar stuff that is lame Jar Jar, especially really early on. But then down the line, there's some stuff I really enjoy. It might just be a one-off episode or a short arc where he ends up impersonating the new ruler of the Gungans.
Yeah.
Called Boss Leone.
You're right.
Because it's not Boss Nass, the big fat dude anymore. Mm-hmm. It's a skinnier guy is the leader of the Gungans now, and he looks a lot like Jar Jar, so Jar Jar is able to impersonate him. And that's what I enjoy a lot.
Is that
So like I said, it's nice to go back with a character, and Jar Jar got a good run in Clone Wars. When you think about how minimal he was made in the prequels after Episode 1, presumably because of the backlash against the character, his screen time was definitely minimal in the later 2 movies after that, even though he played a significant role when you really look at it. Story-wise, he gets his day again in Clone Wars. There's a lot of Jar Jar stuff, some not so great, and some, like I said, enjoyable, and I got a kick out of, especially that, like I said, that impersonating the Gungan leader episode.
Is that the story where they capture Count Dooku? Doesn't he aid in the capture, or not Dooku, Grievous?
I think it's Grievous. Yeah, he helps capture Grievous.
But let's go, Jar Jar. But you know what? We can never keep this guy. Like, we have him detained, and he somehow gets away. You're right. That ended up being, a nice redeeming story there for Jar Jar. Holly was a little worried, a little too much episode 2 hate from Luke there. I was starting to think maybe he left the review.
I really loved Luke's distinction between fun Jar Jar and lame Jar Jar.
Too much Jar Jar hate on this podcast. Too much episode 2 and Jar Jar hate, if you ask me. Gosh, yeah, I can't wait for Holly to. I mean, at this point, we might have to just do a whole rewatch. I don't know. Every other week, Holly's like, should we just rewatch Rebels again? I'm like, Holly, how many times can we? Okay, sounds great.
The Clone Wars is great. It's fun, but Rebels has my heart. I could probably just keep rewatching Rebels for the rest of my life and
couldn't agree more.
We should have a memorable moments of Rebels conversation too. There's some powerful stuff.
Perfect.
I think we should,
Luke. I think that may be the next episode.
God, I already know.
In a couple weeks.
I already have 10.
I think we lead that episode off with a little,
quote.
When did it happen? Oh. And then we'll have a Rebels conversation, because you're right, Holly. So many fond memories of watching Rebels. Yeah, did I have to stay up till 10 o'clock on a freaking school night to watch it? Yeah. Was it on Disney XD that I didn't get, so I had to go to a buddy's house to watch it? Yeah, but I was there every freaking week to watch it. What a great, and when it was released, getting it on Blu-ray, rewatching it, what a great story. He introduced us.
You trying to impersonate a younger person? What, school night?
No. Probably the age of a 25-year-old or whatever that was at that point. God, those were good times. And Rebels, I mean, characters that we had no idea who they were. Just, setting up a family, just a crew, just needing each other. Man, some of the most memorable moments in Star Wars. I'm no Jedi. Jesus, let's go.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Holly, you got Rebels on your mind
I
now.
do.
Hop in season 1. Let's go.
Let's go.
But
a long time ago, Michael let me borrow his Rebel. He had Rebels on DVD, and he let me borrow them.
And what happened? Let's be honest. What happened?
Oh, I gave them back.
Yep. Without.
I couldn't finish them.
Yep. Without watching. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
How stupid were you?
How freaking dumb. I'll tell you what. This
guy giving me cartoons. What the hell?
Get out of here with that.
5?
Oh, freaking nerd. I don't know.
Probably I used to best move.
I used to babysit this kid, and we'd always put the Disney Channel on. I don't know. He was probably 5 or 6 at the time. We always put the Disney Channel on, and they'd be playing reruns of the Clone Wars. I didn't know what the Clone Wars was. This was at a time where Star Wars,
you were too cool. It's cool.
I've seen the movies. Yeah. That's all I need. I don't care. Yeah. But he would always he would make me sit on the couch, and he would explain every single thing that was about to happen in each episode before it happened.
Should have been paying attention.
I should have been.
You should have been. That kid had some good insight back then. We didn't know it.
Schooling me on the Clone Wars. And that, I mean, they would just they would play a new episode, then they would play 16 other episodes, and all of them were out of order. They just put them on, whatever episodes they wanted. But oh my God, he would just sit there and tell me exactly, okay, so now this is what's going to happen. Okay, so they're going to this place. And I'm like, okay. And then I recognize some of those episodes now when we're rewatching.
They went through that whole Umbaro arc, and he was dissecting just the transformation of the clones and them forming identities, and you're like, I could care less. Kid.
This 5-year-old,
go to bed. Here's some sugar.
Earlier, that's where I got the Grant comparison. He sent me that dude. Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, he's just like, here's some history lessons for you. Here's where Dave Filoni was pulling in some assets.
If I was that smart when I was 5 years old, man,
we'd be millionaires.
Yeah, probably wouldn't have a Star Wars podcast.
Seriously. Well, babysitters, listen to the kids you babysit, okay? Maybe we need to take them a little more seriously.
Maybe they should start a podcast.
Don't reject their nerdum. Yeah. Babysitters Club. The Forgotten Tales of the Babysitters Club. That actually, it sounds like a great podcast. Is that the new podcast name?
Yeah.
Yeah, screw Flying Casual.
Yeah, forget about it.
Or now the Untold Stories of the Babysitters Club. I read some of those books.
It's like right up there with like the Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew.
Nancy Drew? Like the television host? Is that who I'm thinking of? The missing persons lady?
No, she's a mystery solving lady.
Listen here. Well, we just saw her on something. She was in...
Nancy Drew is a fictional character.
Oh, well...
Literary character.
Wait, who's the Nancy Drew headlines lady? She was... Who's that?
I don't remember her name, but I know
you know I'm talking. She got that southern drawl.
Yeah.
She's out there accusing everyone.
Court TV?
She might have been on there at one point. That's not Nancy Drew.
But there were Nancy Drew Hardy Boys crossovers.
They were great.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Oh my god!
I might have to be introduced. Are we having a Hardy Boys podcast?
No. Well, actually, yes. Okay. And also, you're thinking of Nancy Grace.
Nancy Grace.
And you keep calling her Nancy Drew. Do not ever.
Do not ever accuse me of being that hillbilly.
She's not a hillbilly.
No, she's not.
And her husband got murdered.
Sweet lady.
So.
No, I know. There's a lot of grief there, and I get it's a lot of processing. I understand.
Okay.
Anything else on the Hardy Boys? Because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my god, I can't believe you've never read the Hardy Boys.
Is this like a Huck Finn story? I have no idea. I don't know.
This is like 1950s.
Oh, Jesus,
they solve mysteries.
Around, okay, I don't know.
Yeah, they're brothers, and they're in high school, and they solve mysteries.
Oh, well, maybe I have. There's so many different iterations of that I probably read in Goosebumps or something at the time. But yeah,
Goosebumps is coming back.
Yeah. Hashtag
like new. Like
bring
new.
back the bumps.
No,
that sounds terrible.
Bring back
terrible.
The bumps.
Specify Goosebumps.
You're a marketing genius.
Don't hire him.
I'm pretty sure there's a 4-hour Goosebumps cut out there.
Yeah.
The one with I don't know who was in that. Jack.
Hashtag the R.L. Stein cut.
I know there's a 4-hour cut of The Beast out there somewhere.
The Beast?
That was a Goosebumps story about the coaster.
I remember the one where the kid got turned into a dog, and it was like
I love that
a whole big thing.
I love the creepy puppets or like the camp story, the summer camp stories.
The summer camp ones were terrifying.
Yeah. I still have those books.
There was another one with like a mud monster in the woods,
freezing.
like a bog swamp monster.
Wow. Which is it? I mean, the swamp monster,
I don't know.
mud monster.
There is a difference between a bog, a swamp,
or a crick.
That's not even close.
Not even close. Boy, this conversation has devolved into something else. But that's the podcast the people need. It's just the whatever comes to mind podcast.
Whatever comes to mind.
With the Babysitters Club. I never babysat, so I couldn't tell you. Holly might be the only one. Luke, do you ever babysit?
He has kids.
Well, he babysits every day. Holly, but here's the one thing. That's what women hate, though. You don't. When people say my son's babysitting, they're like, no, they're your kids.
No, the worst is when like a lot of my friends who have kids on Facebook, they're like, I'm so lucky. My husband let me go get a pedicure today and agreed to watch the kids. What? Your husband doesn't watch the kids himself? You have to like work it out that he watches the kids.
Get it out there, Holly.
Oh God, we were at Home Goods earlier, and this woman was like,
all the stories now. Yep.
This woman was like, my husband just said, forget about it. I'll see you in the car. He hates it when we go shopping.
God, there's nothing more like demasculating than like home decor. I mean, can we all? No, I'm kidding. I'm all in there. I'm getting all the home decor. Home Goods is one of my favorite places. Anyway.
I find some good Star Wars stuff at Home Goods, though.
It's some of the best.
No, actually.
That's where we got the cookie jar.
The cookie jar.
Yeah.
I bought a bunch of Star Wars blankets there. I got my super cute Mandalorian mug there.
Go.
We saw these really cute little cups that had Baby Yoda on them. They were like, they actually were probably candle votives.
Yeah.
And they were in the drinkware section, which I think was
probably
incorrect.
Would put my mouth on it.
Probably not. But it was like phrasing. But it was like frosted glass with like little Baby Yoda on it and a bunch of like other Star Wars characters. They looked really cool.
Looked awesome. Yeah, they're really marketing the hell out of that Baby Yoda still.
Anyway, His name is Grogu.
Yeah, right. Sorry, Grogu. Luke, any good Home Goods Star Wars finds for you? I just need to also disclose, not endorsed by Home Goods at all. This is not an advertisement.
No.
We're just fans.
I don't know if I've ever been to one.
Oh, jeez.
You guys have to
Okay. Well, be ready. Well, they're closed now, but next weekend we'll pick you up in the Rav.
It'll be a Patreon special. We'll do Luke's first time at Home Goods.
Mike, can you imagine?
He'll
vlog
be
it.
so overstimulated.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with all the mud bogs and the marshes and the cricks. Yeah.
Nancy
Drew and crimes and Jar Jar Binks. This
okay,
podcast
you know what?
has
Actually, casting in my mind now, or just making it up. It's a Nancy Drew and Jar Jar Binks solving Star Wars crimes.
I actually think that would be fun because here's the thing. One of the things I loved in the Vader line, the recent one, when he's out kind of trying to solve Padme's death and stuff, he's got that funny like droid with him. Why Jar Jar should go on like a side quest like that with someone and offer that kind of comedic side. That'd be fun.
But then the big plot twist is that even though Jar Jar is made to look super stupid, he's actually the one who solves the crimes.
Yeah. Well, there's actually
inadvertently
a comic book where he wields a lightsaber. We'll just leave it at that.
Oh, I heard he was a Sith Lord.
Well, that theory's been debunked.
Has it?
I don't know. This podcast stinks.
That's the name of the new podcast.
That's the name of that may be it. This podcast stinks. I think I get some ratings.
Don't listen to this one.
This is not talking about Star Wars. I'm talking about home goods and home decor shit. I don't care.
It's our podcast.
Bunch of libs.
Turn it off. Turn it off now.
Bunch of libs on their home decor. Okay. Well, guys, if you made it through that, I really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun talking about our favorite Clone Wars stories. I can't wait to talk about Rebels because that excites me. Racing. Love me some Rebels. But guys, I want to know. Like, let's get in the group. Holly, maybe we post in the group. What's your favorite story? I mean, that's gonna be some good dialogue.
Maybe Brent will do a poll.
I mean, I'm down.
Poll
with a little bit of little.
Yeah, if you have a favorite arc in the Clone Wars, let us know because now I do want to like kind of compare and see what everybody's favorite ones are, and if if the majority of people like a lot of the same ones, or I don't know. I just find it really interesting. It kind of hits home with different people in different ways. So
yeah, and then we'll have another poll to follow that. Do you want a 4-hour cut of Caravan of Courage? Yes or yes.
Those are the only answers.
No answers. So expect those polls soon, guys. I do appreciate you checking in, listening to Flying Casual or This Podcast Stinks, whatever the new name is going to be. I'm really liking that. Maybe that's the new slogan. It's no longer "Don't be a dick." It's just "This podcast stinks." This podcast stinks. Jar Jar even thinks that this podcast stinks.
Shut it down.
That's maybe a new T-shirt. This podcast stinks. Jar Jar Binks. Yeah. Even Jar Jar thinks we're lame.
Lame Jar Jar.
Yeah. Well, guys, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed this, let us know. However you can, whatever platform you're listening to, rate, review it. Check out our Facebook group. A lot of good conversation going in there. As well, in our Patreon as well. And come hang out with us every month with our patrons, join in some book clubs, some good conversations with those guys. We have very specific commentaries that we need to work on. Holly, we're still working on Holly's Drunken History. Just haven't got Holly drunk enough to perform yet.
Michael's buying
phrasing, but you know what I mean.
It's just 3% light beers.
Yeah,
just doesn't get the job done.
Yeah, Coors Pure just the Coors Pure is just not 3.8. Just doesn't get it done. Just doesn't get it done. That's okay. We'll get a couple bottles of wine. We'll make
too much Coors hate. Tone it down.
I agree. Yeah, this is a working class podcast. Damn it. Okay. But guys, let us know. Join the group. Join the conversation with us. I appreciate you listening. Take care of each other out there, and may the force be with you always.